Hi there, welcome to End-to-End Solution Architect session today. My name is Som and I am going to talk about Hashicorp Packer, and I will show you demo that how we can build image with Hashicorp Packer for AWS, Azure and Google Cloud Platform. So let's proceed. Now this is the overall architecture design I would say that we will be covering in multiple sessions. So today we will be focusing on building the image, but actually the whole series will contain building the image, creating the pipeline, deploying those images to create infrastructure using HashiCorp Terraform into multiple cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, as well as I will cover the vSphere, which is basically the VMware product using HashiCorp Packer. Now let's jump into the next part. So here, before I start the session, let me introduce myself. My name is Som. I'm an IT architect and consultant, more than uh, 14 years of experience in IT field with banking and financial domain, having multiple certifications of Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, etc. Now, very quickly, let me tell you that if any of you are interested in-class or online training, which is being conducted in this summer for 5 days training and 7 days training for Azure, AWS, or data science, if anyone is interested, feel please feel free to join. You can scan the registration link for, if you are interested to join the open house for cloud architects, definitely you can check this URL and register for that. That is completely free. Well, let's move. There are a few others trainings and IT role based trainings as well. If anyone is interested, AWS practitioner, Azure fundamentals, cloud digital leader for Google Cloud, and Terraform associates, definitely. Complete agenda of this whole series, which is basically building the images using Packer for multiple cloud environments and multiple operating system, then create the pipeline, then deploy that uh, infrastructure using HashiCorp Terraform, are actually multiple sessions. So in this session, I will be covering first three pointers over here: building image for AWS, building image for Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. So I will be showing you how I will be using HashiCorp Packer for these three environments, and the image I will be creating, the base operating system which I will be using, that will be Ubuntu, Windows 11, and Red Hat image as well. Okay, so let's proceed further and show you the live demo that how we can run HashiCorp Packer to create machine images. Let me take you here for a quick walkthrough of our GitHub repository, which is basically E2E Solution Architect. And here you will find HashiCorp Packer, and you will find all the projects over here. So if you go under the golden images, you will find that AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, as well as multi-cloud platform and vSphere as well, which is basically the VMware product. And I will be focusing in vSphere also. Now, in AWS or Azure or GCP, whenever you go, you will find that version 1, version 2. So it will eventually grow, and but you will find different flavors, different versions, different specification over here. Now, in every README, you will find that how you can set up for that particular cloud platform. I will definitely show in the demo in this session that if you are going to set up first time for AWS, you have to install and set up AWS CLI, then configure AWS credential, and every reference is given over here. So you will not need to search anywhere else. So I have provided all the required steps and steps one by one in a single place. Well, it has opened, so it shows that how you can install the CLI. the steps and the commands one after another, means every step by steps command. And but the same way how you can set up or configure the AWS credential, and when you install the Packer, and how you will be able to initiate the Packer validate, and Packer build. Now let's jump into the code. And the same way I want to tell you that the same way as we have done for AWS, GCP and Azure are the same way. So if I open Azure, you will find the similar steps are mentioned over here. You will get every steps over here. Just follow, copy the command and just paste it. You do not need to modify anything or search anywhere else. Okay, so I'm just opening this VSC code editor, and we'll be starting with AWS first. And in AWS, suppose we want to build an image for Ubuntu where we have Nginx installed. So we'll be creating that package with Ubuntu as a base image and Nginx. But before starting that, let me show you the Packer project directory structure which I have defined over here. The first thing you see that in a project I have the aws.packer.hcl over here. Now the thing is, let me tell you that for a Packer project the file names extensions should be .pkr.hcl, but it doesn't matter that what name you provide. In my case, I have provided AWS build local plugins, values, variables for a readable files. And once you just name this file, you know that what is the purpose of this file, but it depends on you. I have followed the best practice, which I definitely recommend other also to follow this, and it is very easy to read and understand. So the first part will be the plugin. Here in the plugin, which is over here, that we mention that if we are using AWS, then we mention that particular plugin for Packer related to AWS. So that's why we have mentioned it over. Now the next thing is that we mention the source. So in source, since we are creating Amazon machine image or AMI, or with the base image of Ubuntu, that's why the source name is Amazon hyphen EBS, and you can put a name over here. The Ubuntu I have added because I will be creating a machine image for Ubuntu. Okay, and these I'm not going attribute wise. These are the format or the mandatory attribute required when we are creating a machine image for AWS. Okay, now the next thing comes that let's go to the variable and values. Here we have mentioned these variables, and we have the values actually in values.pkrvar.hcl. Just notice over here that these variable extensions, these file extensions basically is little different. It calls pkr vars.hcl. So it is not only pkr.hcl. So little different. Now when I will execute Packer or run Packer, I will show you how you should put the command over here. So simply, if you know Terraform, you know that how you can pass the variables values to actually the variables which is in your source code part. Now next part is build. Build is the command or the section of the code which actually creates that image, considering that which source it should take. Now in our case, you see that it is a source.amazonabs.ubuntu, and if we go to that AWS Packer, we have mentioned it over here, source Amazon EBS Ubuntu. So the source we have to mention from here into our build part. Okay, rest of the part is for the format only, but here in build you have to specify a name. A source is the mandatory thing that you have to specify over here, but you see that sources, so this actually takes a list of sources you can provide. So at this point we have provided only one, but if you are building multiple images together from multiple sources, then you can add multiple sources in this list. Now you can add provisioner. I will come later about the provisioner. Provisioner is something that when we are creating the image, during creation we can execute few commands. Suppose we want to install multiple tools over here. In this example, I have showed that we are installing Nginx. So we are updating that instance basically. Then we are installing the Nginx first, then enabling the Nginx, then we are starting the Nginx. Okay. And also for the firewall rule, we are installing that sudo ufw and allowing from any to any port for port number 2280 and 443, like that. So you can customize this part as you want, but the basic skeleton is like this. Then when we are using build, then how we can use provisioner. Now let me tell you one more thing as well. You can use multiple provisioners under a single build. Okay, I will show a little complex example also in this demo. Now we have seen the basic components over here. Just quickly going through one more, that we have defined our plugin, that we are using Packer for AWS. That's why we have defined the plugin. Secondly, we have defined the source, that taking a base image from Ubuntu, or we want to create or build our image, where in our image we want to build, install that Nginx, and and these are the commands which will install and set up Nginx into that particular image, and it will create the build for that. We have also the post processor. When the image has been built, that what we want to do as a post processor, so we can put some post processor as well. At this point I am not emphasizing on the post processor, just keeping it here. You will find that what is the output it has created, I will show it. So let's first create this thing. Now in directory wise, I am in the Packer project directory. So first what I recommend everyone, that go for the Packer format command. So it does Packer fmt and dot, and don't forget this dot, because dot considers the content of the whole directory. And since all the files are well formatted, that's why it didn't format anything. If you have any misformatting, it will correct that formatting, will show. The next one we will do validate. So validate is like Packer validate. Now Packer validate dot, if you put the dot intentionally, let me enter it, but it will show the error. And let me tell you that why it will show the error. Okay, now it's showing that the unset variable region, unset variable source AMI, and all these things. But we have actually set the values for the variables over here. Okay, so what is happening behind the scene, that Packer is not able to refer that in which variable file we have particularly defined this values. Okay, so we have to mention that thing to Packer. So how we can mention that, when we are writing this validate, we will provide this value files, and the value files, when we provide any file, it is like hyphen var file, because we are providing the variable file, and within quote we provide the name of the file. So now, and then put a dot. Now it is started. Now it has started validating, and it's saying that the configuration is valid. So our configuration is valid. We are ready to build now. Now the run command is basically the build. So because we are building images, so it is Packer build. We are passing the variable file and dot. So what it will do, before I click enter, what it will do, that let me take you to my AWS console, which I have kept it open. Let me take you to the EC2 instance. Well, at this time, we see that we don't have any instance running or any instance available over here. Okay, so what we will do now that we will run Packer. So let's open Packer. We are ready with this command. Packer build variable file name dot and clicked enter. Now it will start executing the Packer build. Now, if you are thinking that how it connected, we see that we have provided the AWS profile over here, and it has all the required credentials. So whenever you will read our GitHub project readme, you will find the steps that how you can configure the AWS credentials. So explicitly, you do not have to hard code your um, AWS key and secret into your Packer projects, and that is very much recommend. We should not hard code any ID or secret into your code. Okay, so as you see that it has started executing, and it has connected to the SSH. Now let me take you over here and just give a refresh. You'll find one instance over here. So you will find one, as I see that there is one new instance has been created. So basically what it does that it creates one EC2 instance, then pull the base Ubuntu image, what particularly the image we have mentioned. Let me take you to that image what we have mentioned over here. So this is the source AMI, and this is the AMI ID for a particular Ubuntu image. So it will pull that image, and on top of that it will install the tools or whatever the commands we have specified under build. Okay, so it is the inline command which is the list, and under that whatever we have listed it will execute one by one. Okay, so let me take you to this EC2 instance once more, and gradually we will find that once the image has been created, it will be terminated automatically. We do not need to terminate it. So you see that the instance state has started stopping. Okay, so it is stopping now because the image must have created or it's about to complete. So let me take you to this on the left hand side under images we have the AMIs. So if I click over the AMIs, just opening in a new tab, that we should see our image which we created by our Packer. It should be listed over here. And now we see that we have the newly created image listed over here. This is the brand new image which we created using Hashicorp Packer, and in that image we have our Nginx installed and whatever the configuration we have specified it. And you see that the status is still pending, so it is taking few more minutes, and by that time it will be ready. And if you are back to this EC2 instance, you see that it was showing stopped, and now it will show terminated. Okay, and gradually you will find that this image is ready to use and status is available now. So we have completed our first demo, that how we can use HashiCorp Packer for building image or basically building Amazon machine image, okay, using AWS cloud platform. Now the second part will be, I will be taking you to Azure, that how we can do build image in Azure platform. In case of Azure, I will show you little complex project than this AWS thing, and I will show you that how I will create multiple images together for Azure platform. So in Azure version 2, I'm using, this is the project I have published over here. You can use this source code from here. So this is the project I will be using, and here what I will do, let me explain one by one first. Okay, so the same way the package structure azure.packer.hcl. Here you see that I have multiple sources. So try to understand that when you are running Packer, you can specify multiple sources when you need to create or build multiple images in parallel. Okay, so what is my purpose in this project is that in parallel create one Ubuntu image, one Windows 11 image, and another Red Hat image. Okay, that's why I created three sources over here. Now for three particular sources, parameters are little different because in one case it is creating Ubuntu, another case it is creating Windows 11 image, and the third case it is creating the Red Hat image, but more or less it will same. I am not going parameter by parameter. You will find the whole code in our code repository, GitHub repository, so you can refer it from here. The main purpose is to show you the structure and how you can play with it for your purpose. Now I have mentioned over here that we have that Azure Packer.acl where we have the sources, multiple sources mentioned over here. Now the next part of it, as we have multiple sources, we need to build that multiple sources as well. Okay, now just few minutes ago I have told that these sources, this parameter can hold multiple source. Okay, so why we are using multiple sources separately, multiple builds separately? We could add this windows here as well within this. Just put a comma and add that part, but we didn't do it. The reason is that you in this build section of code you are mentioning that point to these sources, so it will try to point to these sources, but in our case the sources are different, one for the Ubuntu base image, another for the Windows base image, and the third one is for the Red Hat base image. So the commands or the tools installation, the approach of installing the tools are different. So when we are adding multiple sources in a same build, it will try to build but also try to execute the same set of commands in case of all builds, but that will fail because we know that sudo apt get update will not work in case of Windows or in case of Red Hat, so it will only work in case of Ubuntu. But when we can add multiple sources over here like this Ubuntu and Ubuntu 1 or Ubuntu 2, like this, suppose you want to build Ubuntu version 18 and Ubuntu version 22 in parallel. So in that case, we know that all the command or these instructions will be same. Just we can add the multiple sources the way I just added over here. Okay. So I'm doing this undo and we are ready. So we know the purpose that why we have built or created these three separate build to build three images separately. One for Windows and one for Ubuntu and another for Red Hat. Perfect. Now let me run this thing. Now before running this thing, again let me take you to the Azure portal where I am already logged in. So in Azure virtual machine on this screen, we don't have anything here. Okay. So what we can expect that when we run the code, since we are actually executing or trying to build three images together, so it will create three instances in parallel. So we will see how it creates. Okay, but the same way what we will do, Packer build. First we will go to the project directory. I am in the project directory. Now Packer build. Before that Packer build, let me do a Packer validate. So everything is okay for the validate. Now let's build the same way. So Packer build, we are passing the variable file and adding the dot and clicking on enter. It has started executing. And if you read this log very carefully, you will find that it has started all three sources or all three builds basically in parallel. So you will see that Azure ARM, Ubuntu, Azure ARM, RHL, Azure ARM, Win11 also it has started. Okay, so let me take you to this Azure this portal as well. In a minute, it will start creating the new instances. Okay, so by this time it has started creating this two virtual machine instances already, and it is showing that operating system is Linux for both. So it must have started for Ubuntu and Red Hat at the beginning. Okay, so the Windows, it will do the just after this. So I'm just refreshing it, and it will take around 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so let me open the console and show you that how it is moving. So at this point, you see that provisioner has kicked off and it is installing Nginx over here. Okay. Meanwhile, let me take you to this code repository once again. Okay. Because it is very important and you should have this thing handy for your reference for your personal purpose, or if any professional project you are working on. So in Hashicorp Packer project, you will find this readme. You will find this readme, and here I have mentioned the step by step how you can install Packer for Windows if you are using the Windows, or if you are using Mac OS or Linux. Then how to initiate, validate, and build Packer. All these are very simple command, but it is good to have somewhere handy at a single place. Okay, now if you go project by project, that is within golden images, if you go inside that, you will find multiple environments. It's like AWS, Azure, GCP, multi-cloud, vSphere. Okay, and as we are into Azure, and we know that if you are starting it from Azure CLI, means a very first time, then you have to install the Azure CLI and connect to the Azure cloud from local CLI. So since I was already connected to the Azure cloud platform from my local system, that's why I didn't show the process. That is a very simple process, but I have mentioned over here that you must have that Azure CLI installed in your system. With this, you check if you want to check whether it is installed or not, you run this command az and then version, it will show you, and then connect to the Azure cloud platform from local. It is like very simple. If it works, means you have the CLI installed, then just do this az login and I will show you, so it will be very easy for you, and it will be automatically connected. It will open a browser, will ask you to log in into your Azure portal with your username and credential, and then done. You will be connected with your local system and you can execute your Azure commands into that. So it has started. It is mostly done. I see the two images must be completed. So I'm just doing a refresh. So you see that now we have only one, and that one is for Windows. So other two Linux virtual machines were terminated because their task is done. Now if you go to images in Azure, if you go to images and do a refresh over here, we should have these two images created just now. So one is for these two are operating systems showing Linux. One should be for this RHEL, which is Red Hat, and another is for our Ubuntu. That is why I specified names, different names that we can identify by it. But out of three, two we have got it created. Now we can refresh and we have to just wait little more, that it is saying that this instance is just creating, so it will take few minutes. Meanwhile, let me tell you that the way I have showed how we can use AWS, then secondly how we are executing Packer for Azure, the same way we can do for Google Cloud Platform as well. So here I am already connected to my or logged into my Google Cloud Platform, and I can show you the code we have, the same way we run the code. Let me take you to the GCP. Okay. If you are running it for the first time, you need to have your Google Cloud CLI installed. Now, secondly, you have to authenticate through your Google Cloud CLI from basically to connect your local to that Google Cloud platform. So you have to run this command for the login. It will open the browser. It will ask you to log in with your Google credential and it will be connected. I will definitely show you that how you can do. It is exactly the same approach how we get connected with Azure portal. Okay, but every steps are here, and for quick reference also you can check the Google Packer builder here. Okay, now inside the project, if I take you there, that the project structure is again the same. You will find the difference in the format. So when we are creating the source for the Google Cloud, we have this Google Compute, and we are creating the taking the base image for Ubuntu. Okay, and we are specifying the project ID, image name, source image, SSH username, which zone in Google Cloud we want to create that thing. It's like that. So the skeleton or the format framework is everything related for all the cloud platforms. It depends on different parameters and the cloud for various cloud platforms, whether it is AWS or Azure or GCP, which one we are using. Now let me take you over here and check the Azure that whether we are done or not. So let's see whether we have got the third one. We have got the third one. You see that this is our Windows image that has been created. Okay, so here I have showed you basically that I want to emphasize over here that how in a single project you can create multiple images. You can build multiple images in parallel, okay, for a particular cloud, or we have the multi-cloud options as well. Multi-cloud is nothing but where we are doing, suppose you want to create these three images for AWS, the Azure and Ubuntu for AWS. So we run multiple sources for multiple cloud platforms and configure our build a section of code accordingly, so we can parallelly create multiple images for multiple cloud platforms. Okay, now let me summarize a bit that we have completed our that building images for AWS, building image for Azure, and I have not showed you for the GCP, but it is the same way as Azure. But one thing I wanted to show you for Azure, that how you can connect your system with your Azure portal. Okay, so consider that you are not connected, or the very first time you have uh, installed your Azure CLI. So what you will do, that you will first check whether it is by Azure CLI is installed or not. Okay, so it is AZ version and it has showed you the version. It means that you have your Azure CLI installed in your system. Now I'm clearing, and what I'm doing that, okay, now we have to run this command az login. It will open a browser and it will ask you to log in with your Azure credentials over here. So since I'm already logged in, I just selected the account I want to use, and it will show you that you have logged into Microsoft Azure. And if you minimize and go to your console, you will find that but it will show a JSON format like this, and so it means that you are connected. So you do not need to do anything else, just you have logged in and you are connected from your console. In case of Google, let me show you the same thing, how it happens. So I'm going to the Google project. Here, same file project structure. We have the source mentioned over here. Okay, I have the build file, also build section of code over here as well. I can move it to the build packer. to here. Now we have this build sources is Ubuntu. Okay. And as I said that let me refer the Google documentation. So which I have created for Google Cloud. So it will be very handy for you to also refer when you are stuck. So we have our CLI installed. Now when we want to run it, so what we have to do, that we have to just run this command over here. So it is gcloud auth application default login. Okay. So I'm going over here and just running this thing. It is opening the browser and it will ask, I have selected the account and it's now signing in. And it says now you are now authorized with the Google CLI. Okay. So it means that we can run the Packer project from here. So if I go back again, and the same way we can run this Packer build, since our file names are same, so I do not need to change it over here. So I just simply clicked on it. And again, once it has started executing Packer, you will find in your Google Cloud platform that if you go to that compute engine, let's go to compute engine from just searching compute engine from here. It's taking long time to load. So meanwhile, I think that it has completed the image creation. So I am just opening another tab for the image, which is under storage. You have the images. Okay, so here we see that the image for the Google Cloud Platform has been created. This is the image name, and this is just created. Okay, so we know that this is the one we created by our Hashicorp Packer code. So in summary, I'm just revisiting again. We have successfully created images for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform with Ubuntu in all three platforms. And for Azure, we have created Ubuntu, Windows 11, and Red Hat. Okay. In our upcoming session, I will show you that how we can create the same for VMware product, which is vSphere, and we'll also show eventually that how we can use HashiCorp Cloud Platform, which we call HCP, and creating Packer registry. Using that Packer registry, also create the pipeline for image build. Now at this point we have showed manually that how we are triggering this image build project, but we will be creating the pipeline for image building, and how we can use Terraform Cloud to create the Terraform pipeline to create the resources, cloud resources in multiple clouds using that image which we created by our HashiCorp Packer. So it will be a long series. Now one by one I will be covering. Please stay tuned, and if you have not subscribed this end-to-end solution architect session and you find it well and you like this session, you want to know more about HashiCorp Packer, HashiCorp Terraform, and HashiCorp other technologies or any cloud platforms, and as I showed you already that for the resources, you can visit end-to-end solution architect, our GitHub repository, the end-to-end solution architect upcoming events you can attend online or in person if you are in Canada, Toronto, or we have a end-to-end solution architect YouTube channel that you can subscribe to check all the Terraform tutorials and other cloud platform. Thank you for your time. If you have any question, please feel free to write in the comment box. I'll be happy to help you. For any query, please visit e2esolutionarchitect.com and write us to contact us at e2esolutionarchitect.com. Thank you for your time. See you in our next session.